My car's from the era of headlight wipers. Neat little things when they work, but they can be unreliable, and even used ones are expensive. Mine have been acting up. Time to see if I can rebuild them or not. Of course, this time it doesn't act up. There's one thing it does. It'll get stuck. That's a new one for me. Normally they'll get stuck at the all the way up position. All right, let's find out what's going on here. For the 98 model, the headlight wipers are a brown 3-pin connector. Pushing the clip, pull it out. Initial impressions, no corrosion or burning, so that's not our issue. Black is ground, yellow is ignition switch power, and red is signal from the washer stock. 12.38 battery voltage. Nothing on the signal because I'm not activating the washer right now. I'm going to get the wiper arm off next. It does have the fluid sprayer mounted to the arm. I'll put that off to the side. Tiny little nut behind the cap here. 8mm. Let's see if it cooperates. Easy, easy, easy. Looks rough. Wasn't seized on. And just like the big wipers, little splined conical shaft, and the arm pulls right off. To get to the wiper motor, the headlight assembly has to come out, and for the headlight to come out, the turn signal and corner marker has to come off first. Get a flathead screwdriver down here on the tab, carefully push it down, and the marker lamp slides forward. It'll come the rest of the way out with a little bit of slack in the harness. I'm going to unhook the main and then unhook my side marker additional light. That's out of the way. For a stock headlight assembly, we just need to take off the power connector for the headlight itself. But I have an LED kit in here, so I need to unhook the power and the outputs from the drivers before I can take the headlight module out. That's disconnected. There's 3 bolts that hold the headlight on, 2 closest to the radiator, and another over on the other side by the corner marker. All 3 are the classic 10mm. Shouldn't be too crazy tight. Last bolt down here can be a pain to get to. I use a short extension through here, get to the bolt that way, and then try to get the ratchet in. This combination is actually too long. Let's see if the slightly shorter combo is going to do the trick. Get the socket on the extension. That bolt's broken loose. Once loose, they should turn out pretty easily by hand. Almost got it. It's got a washer on it, don't lose that. Second bolt out. Final bolt out. A little bit of a clip action. And out comes the headlight module. Down here are the 2 bolts holding the wiper motor in place. They are, you guessed it, 10mm. You may not be able to get any sort of ratchet in here. If you had a ratcheting box end wrench, which I don't have on me right now, that would make your job a little bit easier. One here on the left is a lot more cooperative than the one on the right. Get that most of the way out, but keep it there just to prevent the reaction torque from flopping the motor around. Can I get a little bit more angle? There we go. That bolt's clear. That one's clear. Motor dropped down, so it's loose. See here where this bit's chopped out. On this model, there's a big old wire harness conduit right behind the wiper motor. So if this were intact, there is no way of getting the passenger side motor out without taking the entire front shroud apart. Solution is to just trim a little access hole here so there's enough room to work the motor out. It's still going to be tight. It's still going to fight you. It's definitely fighting me. Times like these that have me wondering how I managed to do something off camera all those years ago. And now suddenly can't do it on camera. There we go. That was the direction it needs to be. Flip it around a little bit further. There. Headlight wiper motor. I did get this unit used. Say they marked it tested. Gave me a handful of years of service, so these aren't overly unreliable. Question is, can I pull this apart without destroying it? And once I'm in there, can I do anything to make it run again? This is a case where I really don't want to hear so many crunchy noises, but may not have a choice with the way these clips are laid out. It's designed to go together once at the factory and no user serviceable parts. Will it give way first, or will I run out of screwdrivers? Somewhat got it moving. Oh. If it doesn't survive, at least we'll get a teardown out of it, right? If you're enjoying this video, drop a like and consider subscribing for more garage shenanigans content. Yeah, some of these I can wail on. They don't budge. Other ones, shatters. Unit could be 2 decades old or more. Sounds about par for the course. There's some progress. Causing a lot more damage than I hoped to, but things are moving. That's open. Not completely destroyed, and I'll hope it goes back together. There's the final rack pinion and crank for the wiper arm here. Plenty of grease in here, not suspecting a lubrication problem. Might just be press fit. It looks like the whole assembly might just slide out. That would be convenient, wouldn't it? Crank, rack and pinion, and the output shaft. The rest of the gears are plastic. I'm not yet seeing any ripped out teeth or anything. That gear's intact. That one lifts right out. I see a little cam structure on this pinion, and down below I think I see some contacts. Lift out. Yep, that will. Time to get the grease out of the way, get a closer look at what's happening. Here's a closer look at the contacts activated by the cam on that pinion gear. Normally closed. The cam will open it to break the circuit. Can't really see any scorching or problems with the contacts, but it was buried in a glob of old grease, so maybe it was just fouled. Another interesting thing here, contacts run this way, and then the other contact for the motor on the other side. I thought this was a bit of plastic between them, but instead we got this. Now I'm curious, what is it doing here and what does it do? Meter on continuity reads 2.4 ohms. This might be a thermistor element for current limiting for the motor. In case it jams up, this will go high resistance and stop the motor from burning. That's the only thing that I can think of that would make sense of an item of this size. Yellow is the ignition switched power. Go to here, continuity, they go to here. Yep, 0.4 ohms on the other side. 2.7, taking into account the 2.3, 2.4 we were getting from the thermistor before. Continuity through the motor, a few more ohms. This other side should be ground if I go over to the black. Alright, continuity through the motor when the cam switch is in the closed position. The red wire should be the signal from the washer stock to get it moving. That's interesting. I'm not getting continuity. Aha! Somewhere in here that I'm not seeing, there's a diode, which actually makes a lot of sense. We'll allow a pulse from the washer stock to get it turning. That will then move the cam off of the switch. Switch will engage, keep the motor running until the cam circles back around and interrupts the motor, causing it to stop in the parked position. I'm not seeing a single major failure that would make this thing just stop. The switch was potentially fouled. The thermistor could be going bad. It overheats during normal wiping operations, causing the motor to stall in a partway up position. Because the switch is still engaged and current continues to flow, the thermistor hits a steady state and will not reset until power is interrupted for a while. Since that only happens when the car is shut down, that would explain why sometimes I would see them stick up, but the next time I saw them, they would park again. Here's my goofy little test setup. I've commandeered a 9 AA pack from another item that's not in use right now. Should give me around 15 volts open circuit, but it'll pretty readily sag down with a couple amps of load. I just touch this to the power, should be able to bump this thing over. I'm dumb, had the wrong connections. The red lead there, and touch it to the middle, that should bump it over. Yep. That's roaring right along. And that's a stall. What do you know? Pretty hot thermistor. I'm leaning towards that being the problem. Got some meters in the circuit now. This will be current through the motor. This will be voltage dropped across the thermistor. Let's see what we get. And just like that, thermistor steals all the voltage. As long as power is applied, it stays hot and will prevent the motor from moving again. The only way to prevent this is disconnecting power and letting it cool down. The hotter of a day it is, the quicker it'll stop working. If I wait a few minutes, even a few seconds, get another burst of activity before it goes out again. If I park the car, even for a few minutes and come back, boom, suddenly the wipers park again and might run fine for the next several attempts until they just happen to get stuck again. It makes perfect sense now. Thermistors degrade with each cycle. As soon as they start going bad, they cycle more, so the degradation speeds up. When these units were new and thermistors were new, they would probably only come into effect if the wiper got jammed or some other failure happened. Over time, minor thermal cycles got worse and worse. The hotter they got each time, the more they would degrade, until it got to this point where the wiper may not make it through an entire cycle before it cuts off. If I just blip 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 the washer fluid, they might be fine. If I have to hold it down because there's a big old splat of something on my windshield, there they go. Put the rest of the gears in with the exception of the cam gear that will end the cycle, and I've wedged this screwdriver blade in between the contacts to bypass the faulty thermistor, just to get a picture of what the motor draws with the gears in place and without the thermistor in the circuit. Alright, 1/2 amp, that's pretty polite. Might not even go over an amp with the wiper blade on it. Could draw a handful of amps if the motor stalls completely. Took the gears back out, wedged a bit of paper towel right next to the worm gear, try to stall the motor, get an idea of what its stall current is going to be. These batteries will sag, but their voltage is still going to be pretty similar to what this will see on the car. I saw 5 1/4 amps somewhere in there. Could probably get away with maybe a 2 amp inline fuse instead of that thermistor. Runs normally, unless the wiper blade gets jammed up, then the motor stalls, current goes up, fuse pops, disables the fault, doesn't catch on fire. Like that idea versus trying to find a very specialty square coin-shaped thermistor. Cut a tiny length of 1/4 inch copper pipe, smashed it flat, and gave it a little sand. That looks like about the right size to wedge in where the thermistor used to be and take its place. Alright, that's pretty wedged. Looks good to me. Gonna give a quick clean up to the output shaft here. It did have some grease on it, but it's a little bit expired. Bit of rubbing alcohol. Okay, that's taken care of. I made a small but crucial mistake somewhere here that'll come back to bite me later. Leave a comment if you caught it. Yep, that goes together. And hope there's enough clips intact to hold the casing. Yeah, for the most part. Doesn't feel like it'll instantly come flying apart. Real test is, does it run now that I've snapped it all back together? Runs until it parks. If I just bump it with the go signal pin, like that. Little click. That click is the cam disengaging. So it'll wipe a few times and then park again. So far so good. Behold, a fuse holder. Use 2 1/4 inch quick connects, 2 amp standard size automotive fuse. It is put on the ground wire because there are 2 power sources, otherwise I would need 2 fuses. I want to make sure that if something goes wrong in here, fuse blows, it's cut off, and even if I hold down the washer stock, it's not going to burn out something else further up the chain, or the diode in here, because that would be a whole other can of worms for me to deal with. If the fuse blows, pull it out, replace it, try again. If it blows immediately, I know there's an issue in here, and I gotta tear it apart. Paint marker's being a little uncooperative, but there we go, PTC bypass. Time to get this back together. Trying a different way to attach the LED drivers and route the wiring, so I only have one connection to make when the module goes in or out. Sounded like that went to home. Just for good measure, going to cycle the washer a couple times. And power down. Somewhere there for the park position. Plug in the washer fluid hose and give it another try. Oh, something went wrong there. It went the wrong way first. That'd be annoying if the park is in the wrong direction now. Really don't want to have to do this all over. This stinks. I believe my mistake was in how I clocked the red crank gear when the cam gear was in the park position. Now I have the crank clocked such that the rack is in its fully extended position here. It can retract, but cannot extend. Going to double check. Shaft needs to go up, down, up, down. I got it backwards. That's now parked in the up position, which means I need to turn the crank 180, invert the park position. So this now needs to be over here. Starts going up. Ends on a downstroke. There we go. Didn't install the headlight or the wiper blade, just put the motor in. It's plugged in, should give an up, down, up, down. If so, we're golden. Running out of daylight, got everything back together. Time for one more test. I need to slightly adjust the park position. Moved it down by one spline. There we go, that's more sensible. A little bit of slop, but as soon as I hit a bump, it'll pop right back down into place. Left side is a mirror image of the right side. Only difference is I need to pull out my aux relay and fuse box first before I can access the bolts behind it. This side doesn't have the conduit running close behind the motor, but because of how it's oriented, it does want to catch on the edge of the radiator and intercooler assembly, so it requires some fiddling to get it angled that way to pull it out. There's then plenty of room to get it worked out. Motor sits in there like that. This part is what catches on the radiator edge. Had a much easier and less destructive experience getting the cover off the second wiper motor. Got it hooked up to verify the fault condition, voltage across the thermistor, current through the motor, same battery pack as before. Yeah, that's barely gonna make it through one cycle of the motor before it cuts out. Exact same issue, just worse. One solution, same as the first one, coming right up. Smashed bit of copper pipe to replace the thermistor, 2 amp inline fuse, breaking the negative in case of overload. Give it a test. That'll certainly stay running long enough to wash the headlights and return to park before it overloads. Time to put it back. I'm calling that a success. It's been a few months and the repair's holding up. My headlight wipers still work great. In the meantime, I did a bit more research and determined that these little things are probably little fuse, polyswitch TDs, or equivalent. Starting resistance is supposed to be in the tens of milliohms, not integer ohms. It's little wonder they would cut out after just a few seconds of operation. Seems to be a common way of protecting small motors in automotive applications. In fact, I can think of a few other things on this car that might be suffering the exact same problem, but that's the subject for a future video. Thanks for watching.